Hi everyone, Phil from Tecware here. Today we're going to be looking at this from Tecware. It is the Forge M ARGB MicroATX gaming mini tower. It's got a recommended retail price of roughly around about £55. But what it does have is 4 pre-built in ARGB fans. And not only that, it comes with a controller as well as a remote to change the lighting effects on there on the fly. Okay, so we're looking at the Tecware Forge M. It's the ARGB version, which has a recommended retail price of roughly £55. We do have links in the description below, so make sure you click on them because they'll show you the cheapest prices available. And they also do a non-ARGB version, which has a recommended retail price of roughly £40. So let's have a quick look at the box. As you can probably tell by the size of the box, it is an MATX case, so that's a mini tower. So it'll take your MicroATX boards and stuff like that. So overall, just looking at it, gives you a rough idea. It looks like it's got a, I'm guessing from the picture, some sort of hex design on the front in the mesh, and then a glass side panel. Yeah, it says mesh front, so it says it basically there. High airflow case, tempered glass side panel. So quite a few of the cases we're seeing at the moment seem to be coming out with a sort of a designed mesh front. Cooler Master's just done one recently, and so forth. On the side, doesn't say a huge amount. Tells you about the I/O super speed USB 3.0 times 1. It's got HD audio and USB 2.0 times 2. It's got plenty of bays and everything like that. We'll show that above in the specifications. Otherwise, it's pretty much straightforward. There's not much on the box to see. Okay, so let's have a look at the case. So in basics, all I've done is taken it out of the box. There was no paperwork inside the box or anything like that. Just a couple of pieces of polystyrene and a plastic bag to keep it clean. So I'm guessing there'll be a manual. We'll come across that in a few minutes on the inside. So initial looks, you've got that what they call polygonal mesh system on the front, which basically means it's a shaped mesh front. It's a fine-ish front, so that means it'll stop a lot of the dust, but it doesn't look like it'll stop really fine dust on the front. And from what I can see, there doesn't seem to be any form of dust filter other than on the front, which has an advantage and disadvantage. It means high airflow, as in there's less to slow the air going through by having a small dust filter inside there, but obviously that means potential of bits of dust going inside. Saying that, it does have a fine dust filter on the top up here, which is, looks like magnetic. Yeah, it's magnetic, which just fell on the floor. We'll pick that up in a minute. Oh no, it's on the desk. There we go. And on the bottom, you also have another disc filter on the bottom. This is full length, so it does go all the way across the bottom, and it's held on by 2 thumb screws. The only catch getting that off is obviously, if you need to clean this, you've basically got to turn your computer off, unplug it, turn it upside down to clean it and take this off, which could be a bit of a pain. I prefer personally the ones which have like basically a slider. You just slide the sheet out and from the back you can clean it off and then slide it straight back in. But saying that, it's nice that it is a full length one rather than a half size, so it does cover obviously where the power supply is going to be, and it also gives you a bit more ventilation as well towards the front where you're going to have storage drives and stuff like that. So that's nice to see. Otherwise, the case looks fairly standard. The top, you've got your power button, you've got a reset, you've got an LED, so I'm presuming that's for changing your RGB lights. The USB 3.0, 2 standard USB 2s, headphone and microphone slot. On the back, you can just about see that one fan through there. You've got your 4 bays. That's because it's a MicroATX case, so it'll only support MicroATX boards. So don't try and put a full-size ATX in here. It ain't going to fit. Now, obviously, your power supply goes in there. It looks like it fits from taking the side off, and then that's where your motherboard's going to be. So let's take the back side of the case off, or the reverse side of the motherboard, depending on how you want to call it. Now this just slides off, which is good. I'll just put it down there, out of the way. That's where we need a bigger recording studio already, and we've only been in here 6 months. Right, okay, so as you can see, straight away, you've got a nice big cutout here. That's obviously for the back of the motherboard, so you can put water cooling on or change air coolers with ease, which is nice. You've got an RGB controller by the looks of it, so yeah, you can change the speeds and stuff. It's an Orbis. You've got your ARGB connectors and so forth there. You've got some cabling. Pretty much most of it's blacked out. So you've got power switch and hard drive and so forth. You've got USB 3 and USB 2 and audio. You've got sachet packets ends. Please, 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 manufacturers, cover these up. They look hideous, especially in a case like this, which you can see every aspect of the machine. It's going to look nice and black, and then you've got these sachet packets or rainbow cables plugging into your motherboard. I know they're going to be towards the bottom of the case, but still. So that's the first drawback I see, but again, it's not a major thing, but again, it's one of those pet peeves I do not like. Right, let's have a look. We've got a plastic bag here, which looks like it's got a controller, or should I say a remote in it. So yeah, you've got the Orbis remote there. That's for the RGB lights. There are 4 RGB lights pre-fitted in this. So 3 on the front, 1 on the rear. So that's pretty good, to be honest with you. And then you've got a bag full of screws and mounts and so forth, which you may need. And the controller looks like a standard RGB controller. You've got fan auto, it looks like you've got speed up and down, LED speeds, and then different R, G and B for obviously different colours, and then you've got motherboard sync, so you can, by the looks of it, either play about with it that, or connect it up to your motherboard and do it that way, whichever you prefer. Obviously your motherboard will have to have an ARGB connection on it, but if you don't, at least you've got the ability to do it without. Now this is the interesting bit on this case, and bear in mind this is a case which has got a recommended retail price of roughly 55 quid. The one without the fans is only 40. This has got a glass side. This is glass, not plastic. So first, that's a positive for a case of its price range. But not only that, there's no fittings on here. There's no screws holding it on the side on. And there's a lot of tape on at the moment, obviously for shipping. But that's a hinged door. You've got a hinged door on a 55 quid case. There's no screws needed, so you've got nothing sticking out on the side. It's all magnetic. Obviously, that could be a downside if you've got someone who likes opening the case from playing inside and you don't want them to, because it doesn't look like there's a way to actually seal it closed. But on the plus side, it's a nice feature to have that door basically on there, and the side will lift off. He says, there we go, lift off if you want to take it completely off, which is ideal obviously when you're building the machine, which is pretty good. The glass side does have 2 pieces of plastic on there to protect it, one on the inside, some of you like that, and then again on the outside, which takes all the warning stickers off as well. The glass isn't the thickest, but I must admit it is flush with the case, so you don't have a big bump on the side where the glass is. So they've done a good job designing the cosmetics of this case by the looks of it. And it's, from initial feels, it's not too weak and cheap. So it seems like a good steel, or should I say aluminium case. And it doesn't seem really flexible and stuff like that, like you get some of the cheaper ones on the market. So it looks like they've actually not gone down the cheapest route, so which is always good to see. Okay, let's have a closer look on the inside. you've got the 3 fans. You can just about see there. They are those Orbis fans we spoke about. So that's pretty good that they've actually pre-fitted. So again, all the fans that are pre-fitted, that's the one on the rear, the 3 on the front are 120mm fans. On the back, you won't be able to put a larger one on. And again, on the front, I think you may struggle a little bit to put anything larger on there, but we'll have a look in a few seconds. But you can also fit 220mm on the top, which is there. So you put them in there like that. Would have been nice to actually have a fit in, and I suppose you could, but it'll be a little bit wonky. Put at least 140mm fan up there as well. But it wouldn't obviously go, or half of it wouldn't go in the fittings properly. But obviously that would mean then water cooling wise, you should be able to fit a 240mm water cooler up at the top, and on the front there is room to actually fit, I'd say probably a 240, because it looks like the hard drive bay is going to get in the way at the bottom, unless that is removable. Yes, the hard drive bay is removable. You can remove it also with these thumb screws that are on the bottom, so that will give you even more room inside there. You could potentially put a 360mm rad in there, so that would actually give you quite a bit of cooling in there, which is nice to see. But you would probably have to remove these fans what are in here and put your own attached to the obviously water cooler, depending on how you've got it set up. But it's got you've got the option, which is always nice. You do have a cutout here for your power supply, so you can see what make your power supply, which is a good and a bad thing, because you've got a really rubbish power supply. Everyone's going to be able to see you've got a really rubbish power supply. Or for some reason, which we've seen with some manufacturers, they put the stickers on upside down, and it'll show obviously the sticker upside down on the power supply. I always say this, the ones with the cutouts, it would be nice to have some sort of rubber fitting you could put there, or even plastic where it clips on, which will have the manufacturer of the cases on there. So basically it would say Tecware across it and cover that area up if you didn't want people to see what make your power supply is for whatever reason. It does have a honeycomb effect across the top of the power supply area, which is good as well. It does have screw holes on there to fit potentially 220mm fans as well if you wanted. It doesn't really mention that from what I've seen in the paperwork or on the website, but yeah, you could potentially fit 220mm fans there. Obviously you either sucking air down or up. I would suggest up rather than down, because that will cool your graphics card out, and obviously heat rises, which makes it easier. Anyway, enough of the waffling. So the fans on here are all the Orbis fans. They are the Orbis F1 ARGB fans. So if you want more information about the fans and RGB lighting, it's there. The RGB modes, you've got 62 lighting modes, or you can sync it with the motherboard via a 3-pin 5V ARGB header. Obviously don't plug that into a standard RGB header, because obviously the voltages are different and you'll probably end up below in the RGB lights. I've seen people do that a few times, to be honest. So no thumb screws on here, if you've noticed. There's no thumb screws on the side, so to get the side bit off, the glass, as we said, so the hinged tempered glass gives exceptional access to the case interior. So I can't see much of an issue here. There's plenty of tie downs. You've got plenty of cutouts for cabling, which is good. You've got room for 2 solid state drives here and here. You could mount them on the back or this side if you really wanted to. You've got plenty of room in there for a 340mm GPU, a 160mm CPU cooler in height, and 180 max PSU length, that's with the hard drive cage. Obviously if you remove the hard drive cage, it gives you a little bit more room. I can't see why you'd want to put anything bigger inside of it. They do say black case wires, which yes, it's good, apart from the ends of the cables which we've mentioned already, which is a bit of a pain. Obviously you've got that top magnetic filter and the bottom filter which isn't magnetic, it's just clips on. and then you've got 22mm cable management space. That's on the back area, so it gives you 22mm here to hide all your cables before you put the side on. Obviously you'll probably want to make a neater job than that, but it gives you a rough idea. There's plenty of room to play there, especially with the thick 24-pin power cables. Dimensions of this case: the length is 400, the width is 200, and the height is 425. Okay guys, so instead of building the machine up like a full machine, we did put a board in and everything looked fine. But what I decided was to show you what the case looks like just as it is. No motherboard, no memory, no processor in there. Only thing we've got in there is basically a power supply, which is obviously powering all the lights at the moment with a little CPU tester, which allows us to power it on without a motherboard. And as you can see, it looks pretty nice. You've got those 4 fans on there, and bear in mind, normally if you go out and buy a fan kit with 4 fans and a controller, you're probably going to be paying £30–40 at least. This comes with the case. You don't have to pay extra. You can get the case without it. It's roughly about £15 cheaper for the case with no RGB fans on it. But again, that means that these RGB fans and the controller work out at roughly 15 quid extra on here, which for 15 quid is pretty good. So a whole case, £55, includes 4 RGB fans and that controller. And when I say RGB, it is ARGB, which is addressable RGB, and some people call it digital RGB, but basics is it means the fans colours can be multiple colours at once rather than just being red, blue, green or whatever at a time. So half of it can be blue, half can be red and so forth. But as you can see, that looks pretty good. Now regarding the RGB lighting and effects on here, you do have an LED button on the top to change the effects. There's something like about 64, I think it said, different effects you can go for, which is pretty cool. But in all reality, there's probably more than that if you work it out and use the controller they supply. Now the controller they supply may look like any other RGB controller you may get, but the advantage of this is it does the fan speed as well as the colours of the fans. So you can turn it on to motherboard sync, which would sync it with the colour effects you've got chose on your motherboard, as long as you've got an addressable RGB header plugged in, and then you'd set it up through Windows or whatever. Obviously we haven't got a motherboard in here at the moment. You've got some preset options: Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 and Q5, so it gives you a few different options there. But if we wanted on Q1, you then do have an LED speed, so you can actually speed the rotation of the fan, well, not the rotations, the rotation of the effect, or how quick the effects change on there. You press it so many times it goes back to fast speed again, so that's pretty cool. But there was also a nice hold button on there, so if you like a specific effect but you don't want to keep it changing, you just want those colours on there, for example blue and purple, you just press the hold button and it pauses it. And then you can press lock on here, so it doesn't matter what buttons you press, it will stay on that setting forever, so you don't accidentally knock it or whatever. If you press the unlock again, you can go in, press the hold button, and it will continue with the effect. And again, you can press hold again, and it's going to stay on there. It looks like sort of a mixture of orange, green, purple on there, maybe pink. And again, you can adjust that as and when needed, so you can pause and stop. There's also a mode, so you can basically change how it looks on that style, so you can, as you can see, it's sort of a flashing effect there. There's quite a few different options for each one, so I'm guessing the mode button is very similar to press an LED button on the top, but on the top of the case you don't have the option of changing the speeds or anything like that to my knowledge. You can also adjust the fan speed, so you can put it on auto. Bear in mind, auto will adjust the speed of the fans to how hot it is inside. At the moment the machine isn't very hot because, well, there's not much in there, so you would have to hook that up, obviously, a full machine in there for it to pick up the actual temperatures and for the fans to kick in. You do have a high and low setting for the fan as well. I'm guessing the low setting is 50% fan speed roughly, so you can just about hear the fans. And then if you put it on full, which I'm guessing is 100%, that you can hear the fans. It's quite obvious you can hear them. But with any case which is designed for high airflow, you're going to hear the fans if you put the fans on full. It doesn't really matter. I don't agree with testing how loud cases are. A general rule is if you've got a silent case, it's going to be a silent case. You've got a high airflow one, it's going to be noisy. It's just the way of the beast. It's like going out and buying a Ferrari. It ain't going to be silent. It's going to be really loud. Well, unless you're an electric one, obviously. But that's a whole nother story. Another cool thing about this is because of the front, the way it is and the way it's designed, when you look at it at different angles, it looks slightly different. Let me just put it on a different mode. There we go. Because you've got this polygonal design on the front, it looks different from the angle you're looking at it. So, again, you might not be able to tell too much on camera. But overall, I'm very happy with this case. The only thing I wish there was is a way of locking this window, because if you didn't want someone in it, let's just say you've got a kid or something in the house who can reach, there's no way of locking that. They can easily knock that open. Okay, it might be a bit more difficult for them to take it off, but you then have to lift it to take it off. It would have been nice to have some form of catch or option for a catch on there to stop someone open it unnecessarily. Maybe even an option for a slight screw hole at the bottom and a little clip or something down here, just so to stop it if you wanted to. It would be an optional thing where you could put the screw in or not, depending on how you wish. But otherwise, I'm very happy with this case. We're going to do a quick airflow test in a second, just to see how the air's getting sucked in. But because it's a high airflow case, I don't see any issues. Okay, now I'm going to do a quick airflow test. It's really sophisticated. In basics, we make smoke and we see how it sucks it in. And that's all you really need to know. Is the air getting in there? The fan speed at the moment is set on what the controller would do as the low speed setting. And as you can see, even on that, the front of the case is sucking all the air in. There is no problem that case sucking any air in at all. It's picking up. Yeah, it's sucking in all the air you want it to. There's no problem there, and I can even see a bit of it coming out the back. Might be harder to see on the camera, but yeah, that's sucking it in. There's no problems there. Wherever you hold the smoke, it's sucking it in, and that's on low setting. We put it on high. Yeah, it's sucking that in, so I don't think you're going to have to worry about the airflow on this case. It's as good as you're going to get for a high flow case, and that's just sucking the smoke straight off of these sticks. Don't matter how I make the smoke, you can see there, it's getting sucked into that case. So in conclusion, well, I wasn't sure what to expect with this case. I've not come across the brand before, Tecware. We do have some more products from them to review as well. So, in basics, I was expecting quite a cheap, limited case which got a glass side window on it. But in all reality, it's got a lot of features what high-end cases, mainstream cases have got. But it combines them all into basically one machine. So you've got a MicroATX case, obviously it does mean you've got to have a MicroATX board. But you've got a glass side window. Not only that, it's on a hinge, so you can actually swing it open. So that's pretty cool as well. There's no screws on the side to screw it in or anything like that. So that's pretty good as well. And then you've got 4 RGB fans, or should I say addressable RGB fans, included with the case, as well as a controller and a remote. And all this is just 55 quid. It's as if someone made the case and priced it wrong. It should be a more expensive case in my opinion, because you're getting all these features which you normally get on other cases, but probably only 1 or 2 of these features on each cases, but you're getting them all in one case. And you've got this front as well, the high airflow. It's very similar to a Cooler Master case what we reviewed a few weeks ago, where there's no real restriction on the front for the airflow. The air just gets sucked all the way in. You don't have to worry about a dust filter getting in the way. Okay, yeah, it does mean you might have to clean the inside a little bit more often, or in reality, if you just keep the front of it clean, clean it down with a dry paintbrush or something like that, it's probably going to stop most of the dust anyway. I'm really struggling to come up with much in the way of negatives. The only real thing which stands out for me, and this is the same on a lot of cases, even over £100 cases, and that's the multicoloured ends on the cables not being covered up, especially on the USB and audio connections, and then the dust filter on the bottom. I would like it if it would just slide out rather than having to unclip it from the bottom, because that requires you basically turning your computer upside down, which may be difficult, especially if you've got custom water loops in there and stuff like that, because it's going to get heavy, and obviously the last thing you want to be doing is moving a machine what's got a custom water cooling in there. So, would I use this? Would I build a machine in it? Would I purchase it? And the answer is a big fat yes. I am absolutely pleased with this machine. I highly recommend it. And up to now, I would say this is probably the best case in its price range we've come across this year, or at least in the last couple of years.